you might be neurodivergent, you might be someone who was neglected in your childhood. Those are my two huge things. So stick around. And I've just been thinking, and I just want to give you guys a list of things that you might be doing that are actually a sign that you didn't get what you needed when you were younger. There are a lot of things that I didn't realize that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't even put together, that comes from never being validated as a child, but coming from someone that I had an amazing mom. My dad wasn't very good, but my mom died when I was 10, and I got placed with her family, and I don't know which would have been worse. I don't know if being with my biological father, who was on drugs, who is still, to my knowledge, on drugs, or at least he was a few years ago, last time I saw him. Hence, we went no contact after that, which is super sad, but it's just really toxic. So there's that. But my mom's family, they weren't the worst. Like, my physical needs were met, and so for that reason they think that nothing bad could have ever been done, because they always bought me Christmas presents and birthday presents and made sure I had clothes and shoes and everything. That means in their minds that they couldn't have been abusive. Well, this is getting a little too hot. I was 24 when my first therapist brought to my attention that I displayed trauma symptoms, but not from my mom's death, which was interesting. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, you display a lot of symptoms. Or it's like hard for me to even say it. She said, you display a lot of symptoms that are usually associated with people who were neglected as a child. And I said, well, there's no way I could be neglected. Like, I went to private school and, they got me this and got me that. And she said, yeah, but did they ever do X, Y, or Z? And I was like, And then the other thing that really got me to realize that might be true is a few months later, I met my partner now. We met on an autism app, and things went really well. And about a month into talking to each other, after speaking on the phone for 2 or 3 hours a night on average, we decided to orchestrate a little meetup. And so I went to go see him, and long story short, I got stranded in that state, had to live with his family. But his family, from what I've heard, they're not a perfect family. No one's perfect. But they made me feel so welcome. And that feeling was so foreign to me. It kind of started to raise red flags in my head. Like, I remember, because I did have to stay there longer than expected, I was starting to feel like a burden. I was starting to feel like, oh no, I've got to get out of here. Like, I'm staying in other people's house, in other people's house. Yeah, sorry, that just didn't sound right. But yeah, I'm staying in their house. Like, I can't get out of here. And I was starting to feel a lot of pressure. And without saying that to his parents approached him later on, I think that day or the next day, and they said, just tell her that she's not a burden. Like, just make sure that she knows. Will you please go tell her that? And they might have just, had a feeling that anyone in that position would probably feel like a burden. And guys, when I say that made me so emotional, I had to go to the bathroom and I sobbed. And I wanted to hide it from my partner, because I don't even think he was my partner at the time. Right? I just met this guy on an autism app. I go just met his family, right? And they're already making me cry. Like, that's weird, right? So I had to hide it. Like, I couldn't let them see me cry. And so I cried in the bathroom, and it occurred to me, like, I don't think I've ever heard that before. Like, I don't think anybody's ever made me feel like not a burden. And I think that's why I got emotional. But either way, my huge emotional response in that moment did get me to kind of contemplate thereafter, why did I react like that? Why is this such a foreign feeling of just being accepted and supported? And for someone to say you're not a burden just by existing, I've never heard that before. And that's why I'm making this video. Because up until just a few months ago, I thought it was normal to feel like this. Something that I used to really struggle with is over apologizing. I would almost do it like just as a compulsion. I wouldn't even be thinking I am apologizing as it left my mouth. Even if I had a question in a class, I would raise my hand and then I don't know this for sure, right? But just as an example, I'm pretty sure when they called on me, if it was like a full class or something, I would probably start off by saying, sorry, can I just ask? Like, no, that is so inferior. And I didn't realize that until this last year. And I've been making myself feel inferior, but that's because my family always made me feel inferior. A lot of people make these whistleblowing videos that the screen's just black, and they just include their voice. But rather than do that, I kind of want everyone to see me say this stuff out loud because it shows that I'm not scared of them anymore. They can't punish me anymore. I'm paying for this house, well, with my boyfriend and my partner, or I'm sorry, hold on. With my partner, and boyfriend just sounds so juvenile. So sorry, I don't mean to be sketchy, kind of. I have no secrets. I just don't really know what to call things sometimes. Partner and my friends have really helped, but for once my family doesn't have leverage over me, and I think they're all kind of freaking out because they do all have a very similar mindset. The more videos I've watched about abusive families, they have one mindset. It's like a hive mind, and they all operate on the same personality almost, just one big dysfunctional personality type, all of them. Like, they don't have individual personalities almost. Like, they're all the same, just as long as it goes, by this, like, dysfunctional, whoever they put as, like, the queen bee, which in my family, it's my aunt. And everything that I ask gets redirected to her. Like, it's like a legal, that's been giving me some red flags too. Like, I've been having to talk to lawyers in my adult life just for some employment issues, some traffic things, just an autistic person getting taken advantage of by employers and the legal system and everything else. I've been talking to lawyers this year for the first time in my life. And the point of that is, after interacting with attorneys and lawyers and legal representatives, I started to see all the similarities between the way that they talked and the way that my family talked. Like, no extra information. They barely give you, my family didn't tell my mother that she was going to die. Okay, let that sink in. We found out on August 7th, that it was my cousin's birthday, August 7th, and we found out that she had 3 days to live. She lived until August 29th, and they did not tell her that whole time. No one got to say bye, including myself. I didn't get to say bye to my dead mother because I was supposed to keep it a secret from her that she was going to die. And there was a little kid at the time. I was 10, so this little kid must have been 4 because we're 6 years apart. This 4-year-old was just innocently trying. I remember this so vividly. She was standing at the foot of my mom's bed as my mom was dying. And a family friend or something came to visit my mom, and this little 4-year-old cousin innocently said, yeah, but you know what's really sad? Like, she's gonna die. And then my family, and my mom was kind of like half out of it. So I don't know still to this day if she heard that or not, but just that being so vivid in my brain, that is what, objective things like that are what really caused me to recognize the abuse that happened. Because one of my aunts, which was my mom's super, super close sister, she never recovered. We're like 20 years after my mom's died almost, and she's still the same trauma. I love her so much, but you can tell she just hasn't healed, and like my heart goes out to her. It breaks for her. I've tried to help her, and then she hurt me to a degree where I had to create some space there, but I tried to help her because she looks like my mom, she acts like my mom, but she just has, and I think, I don't know this for sure, but if I could theorize that, I think that that's why she never healed. like the rest of us. I've had to heal from therapy, but prior to intensive therapy in my adult life, I was just a fractured, fragmented human being. And I don't even, I didn't have any of the life skills necessary to go into the world. That's also a sign of abuse, by the way. If you get to be an adult and you have no idea how anything works and you don't trust yourself to make a decision, you don't know who you are, that you are abused. Of course, there's other reasons why that could happen, but like in my case, I'm realizing this quite literally came from abuse. I didn't have a good sense of self. I didn't have good boundaries, because what happened when we were younger, when we tried to stick up for ourselves, right? We were shut down or we were punished. And so we grow into adults that still have that mentality. We're animals. Yes, we have a soul, and yes, we're like more special, right? But we really do have to think of ourselves as animals in the way that our brains do memorize these patterns and they release chemicals accordingly. So in early childhood, if you were always shut down and there was a conflict or something negative, aversive, upsetting that always came from sticking up for yourself, or even just stating a request, I'd like to be alone right now. Things like that, just like, or I'm having a hard time talking about this right now, but can we revisit this later? That's having good boundaries, that's knowing yourself. But that was such a foreign concept to me. And it's not because I hated myself, but it's because I thought that I wasn't worth it. Because no one has ever told me that my voice was worth hearing. And no one ever told me that I have a right to my feelings and a right to my needs before this last year. Before I got my autism diagnosis in my late 20s, no one had ever told me, you have a right to feel that way. You have a right to ask for what you need. And if someone disrespects you, most importantly, you do have a right to defend yourself. And that's where we're getting controversial, because I know that a lot of people think that I have, an anger problem or an attitude problem or whatever it is. And I say, no, I think this is 30 years of someone being suppressed. You guys honestly are lucky that, and not you guys like YouTube, I just mean like my family and all the people that say that I just went off the deep end, right? I'm off my rocker now. No one saw it coming. Everyone's just shocked as heck. But the thing is, like, and I'm not even trying to retaliate or get revenge, I promise. It's just, I finally found my voice, and I'm working on using it appropriately. My therapist this last year said, you can't always justify being honest. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's the truth. What do you mean? Of course I can. And she said, no, like sometimes you can be being honest, but you're being disrespectful. And I went, oh, and it all clicked together, right? Just because it's honest doesn't mean that you need to say it. And just because it's honest doesn't mean that you should say it that way. We need to use tact. But yeah, I got to my adult life. I didn't know how to make decisions. I didn't trust myself. I had very poor boundaries. I'm divorced twice. And I do think that it's because I didn't know what to look for in a partner. I've never seen it. I grew up without my dad. I grew up without a father figure of any kind. I had a couple uncles and like a couple grandpas bounce in and out, but I never had that person that makes you want to make a good decision. I've even experienced that with teachers or like partners, parents, that sensation of actually respecting one of your elders or someone above you, older than you maybe, or in a, a respectable position. Prior to my adult life, this is crazy. Prior to my adult life, I had never felt the sensation of wanting to make a good decision because I was genuinely concerned with disappointing whoever that was. Because prior to that, I had never respected or felt respected by anyone in my family, no adults. So I was never concerned about disappointing them because I thought I was already a disappointment. Ooh. This is totally unscripted. So sorry, some of these things I'm saying for the first time, and it's the first time it's even popped into my brain, but I didn't trust myself at all. And now I feel so much more capable. I feel so much more honest. I feel so much more liberated. And a few months ago, I did have anger issues, I will admit, but the last couple months I've been trying really hard because something about anger issues isolates you, right? So I have, but no one could see why I was getting frustrated. And I have a right to say this. It doesn't make me a narcissist. Um, I do feel like I got progressively more and more and more upset, and I do feel like I gave warnings. I feel like it was repeatedly not being heard. I was warning everyone that I was getting more and more upset. They still didn't even recognize why I was upset. Even if they don't agree with me, it's so nice when someone just says, I don't really see it that way, but I can totally, understand why this would be upsetting to you. That is so healing. And I see those moms, and people hate them because it's like the gentle parenting videos and stuff like that. But imagine what that would have been like to hear that as a kid. Seriously, let's all just think about it for a second. Because I think that that's what our souls need now. But we're not going to get it from them. We're not. It's been this long, babe. You're not getting it from them. And I know that hurts to hear. I just want to give you a hug, okay? It's okay. It's okay. You're not going to get it from them. So you have to give it to yourself. So how do we do that? Well, we start trusting ourselves. This last year, I read the book Unmasking Autism. It's one of the most highly recommended for anyone that's newly diagnosed. But one thing that really stuck was they said, this is not a quote. I read this book months ago. I haven't looked it up since. It says, if you do unmask, are you going to trust who's underneath? If you do drop the mask, do you trust who's underneath? And my answer to that was no. As soon as I read it, I was like, absolutely not. And I've spent the last few months exploring that. Like, why don't I trust myself? And I think that we all just need to validate how we're treated as children really does shape the way that we see the world. And especially before we're 7, I think they said that around 7 is when your worldview and your personality is loosely formed by that point. And then you kind of expand on that as you get older. But it's so imperative that parents give their kids the tools that they need, mainly emotionally. Like, I feel like parents are so focused on physical tools that we neglect giving our kids emotional tools. And that is so detrimental. And I'm getting mad about it now, not just because I'm, abused or neglected or like have these issues now. It's the fact that the amount of pain that I have endured from other people's messed up kids, primarily my 2 ex-husbands, who were physically abusive to either me or my dog. And what was I saying? Well, that was enough to do it, wasn't it? Basically, like, do you trust who's underneath? I had very poor boundaries, but as soon as I started having better boundaries with the people around me, and then this is the thing, until you start experiencing those positively reinforcing situations where you do stand up for yourself and something good happens, you're going to be stuck in that mindset that your parents gave you of, I don't trust myself to make a decision, I'm powerless, I always make bad decisions, I don't know what's going on, etc. Those need to get thrown in the trash. Thrown in the trash. And we need to replace them with, I'm capable of making a good decision. I trust myself. I know what's best for me. I know how to protect myself. I will protect myself. How many of us have felt like if something happened to us as children, we wouldn't be protected by our family? And I'm not necessarily talking about physical. The thing that's important that, is sticking around, bruises that happened 20 years ago from them not physically protecting me. This thing was falling and they didn't protect me, so boom, it hit me and I had a bruise. Well, that bruise healed a week later. You can see where I'm going with this. Emotional wounds of not giving kids what they need those don't get healed until, I'm sorry, hot take, but most of you guys find a spouse or a partner that heals those for you. I'm so glad that that's worked out for you. Or, you have to do it yourself. And those are really the only two options that we have. And a lot of times, like, my people in my family, especially women in my family, will say, you just need to be a real adult. I can't believe that you don't have these skills, like stuff like that. But these are the women that were married right out of high school and are still, married to those men, some of them. And they've never had to do anything alone. They've never gone without food. They've never had to pay a rent by themselves. Ever. Then they started cranking out kids. So then they had the government support, their family support, just no matter what, because they had kids. And it makes me question people's motivation for having kids sometimes, but that's neither here nor there. But, I never got what I needed, and because it's all I've ever known, I never questioned it until I got to be an adult and people brought these things up to me, and I thought, that is weird, isn't it? And then I started to notice these habits within myself. I'm like, why did I react like that to that? Why do I have such strong emotional responses? Usually it's tears. It's turned into anger very recently. It's just been these last couple years. Last few years, maybe, but so much was caused by substance abuse. I can't even tell anymore. But we'll just say, since I have been sober, we'll focus on the last couple years. So just to recap, like, some things that might signal that you were abused, like I was emotionally as you were getting older. You don't trust yourself to make decisions. You have poor boundaries. You feel like you don't know even what to look for in a partner because you never had you never had an example up close. I do feel like I was raised by YouTube, and I was raised by not so much movies, but I've had partners and friends who have admitted to me that they really do feel like they were raised by movies, and that's how they learned behavior. And a lot of kids now, or teenagers or whoever, are probably learning that from the internet, reality TV, and their dysfunctional families who are also just ignoring them for their devices. It's only going to get worse. So whether you're 13 or 23 or 63, we have the power to stop it. But the only thing that's going to stop it is the second you recognize it and say, I was abused. Your family is never going to tell you that you're abused, ever. You might have a really lucky one. Like, one of my dear friends, recently, she told me that she opened up to her mom about some things that happened to her when she was younger, and her mom was actually receptive. But that is so rare. That is such a blessing. So I just want to tell you guys, like, you're probably not gonna get validation from your family. You're probably not gonna, it's been who knows how long, and that's not to be discouraging, but that's to say, hey, don't keep holding your breath for that, because it ain't coming. I say that with love, but it is not coming. Think about it. It doesn't make sense for them to admit it after all this time. So you're not gonna. So what you have to do is admit it for yourself. In this moment, say it with me. I was abused. Or if you're not quite ready for that, you can say, I wasn't given what I needed. And I've had to get pictures of myself, and I have to look at them. When I'm filming out there, I have a little picture of myself right behind the camera. It says, do it for her. Because that's who needs it. You might have never gotten what you needed when you were younger, but the only thing we can do is give it to ourselves. And that sounds so generic, right? But I'm not emphasizing we can give it to ourselves. I am emphasizing, all the other YouTube creators are like, yeah, we can give it to ourselves. You can do this, this, and this. And I want to emphasize, they're not going to give it to you. It's no matter how badly you were wronged, how many other people are validating you now, they're not gonna give it to you. I remember in high school, one of my aunts, we'll just keep it completely anonymous, but one of my aunts, we don't know if it's my dad's side or my mom's side, it's just an anonymous aunt. She got very mad at me one time. I think I said something. I did. I must have mouthed off, said the wrong comment, and she grabbed my face like this. And I remember her looking at me just so intensely. I don't remember what was going on, what I said. I really don't. But I can guarantee you, I said something that I shouldn't have. Okay, I'm not trying to make it sound like that. But I remember after she grabbed my face, I went upstairs, and I'm being objective as possible. I went straight upstairs, and one of my back teeth just came out, and it was bleeding. And there were 2 other teeth in front of it. And then I went and told this aunt, and she said, well, that was already loose. But that's not how teeth work. They fall out from the front to the back, and there were still 2. So anyways, I go to, and some other stuff happened too. There's plenty of things that I could get into, but I'm just going to focus on that because we can all be objective there. Tooth fell out right after she grabbed my face. There was 2 more right in front of it. There were other stuff that happened, but all this stuff got me to the point where I finally went to, I would be forced to go to church every week. Doesn't matter if I wanted to go, doesn't matter if it gave me social anxiety, and they would just drop me off at the youth group. I didn't even get to be with my family I didn't have any friends. So it was basically, I was getting dropped in this like observing tank is what it felt like, and I couldn't hide anywhere. I felt like a snake just being dropped in a huge enclosure and all these other, but it was so much more intimidating because at least snakes don't have this social hierarchy and like all these, they're so much more simple, but with humans, I just felt so anyways, church was a horrible experience for me personally, and it has nothing to do with the religion itself. It's just how I was treated. But I figured might as well ask for help, right? I kept going week after week after week, and I kept thinking about it. Oh, I should talk to someone. Maybe someone here could help me. Maybe they could pull me out of this. Maybe I could get the help that I needed. And week after week after week, I said, no, I'll get in so much trouble with my family. No, I can't ask for help, because then I would have to tell people what was happening at home. And my family, I would just get in so much trouble. But it finally got so bad one time that I was thinking about ending it all as a 14-year-old kid, which is so sad. But I remember how serious I was about it. And I was serious about it week after week after week until finally, one week, I worked up the courage to tell this person, I think her name was Adrian or something like that. Adriana. I don't know, but I finally worked up the courage to say, hey, I'm having, these thoughts. They're very dark at home. I just feel like it's never going to end. Like it's just all this stuff all the time, and I can't keep going with it. And she said, I don't even remember because I was so young, but she basically said, well, we're going to get you help. Like, don't worry. Thank you so much for talking to me about it. I'm going to talk to some people and see what we can do. And for the first time in my life, I felt relief. I felt some adult is listening to me. And that's another thing. For the first time in my life, I felt that at 14 years old. That's wrong. And so I was talking to her. She would call me every once in a while to check on me. And then maybe a week or 2 later, she called me and said, hey, so I talked to someone at the church, but they said that they know your family, and there's no way that your family would ever be capable of that. And they said, I'm not saying you're lying, but, and she heavily implied that I was lying, okay? And she was like, I'm not saying you're lying, but, if you are lying, it's just going to be serious consequences. And she kind of, psyched me out. I'm not saying she made threats or anything, but all of a sudden I was so scared. And I remember I thought about it for, I can't remember if it was hours or days, but I remember on the phone, I was telling her that first call that I'm talking about right now, or not first, but that initial call that she was like, hey, so I talked to some people, but they said that your family probably isn't that, so you need to tell me if you're lying. I told her, I'm not lying. I don't know why they would say that. and I was adamant. And I remember getting off the phone, still having said that to her, and I meant it. But then after thinking about it, I think the fear set in, and I remember picking up the phone again, calling her back, and then admitting that the whole thing was a lie. And that has stuck in my brain more than almost any other thing, because I remember how embarrassing it was to have to say that I was lying about something that I really wasn't. But I just had to do that for my own self-preservation, because I knew that if I didn't and my family got caught, the punishment that would be done to me would be far greater than the benefit that I would get of, having support, or I don't know if like child protective services were going to get called. Like, I have no idea. But yeah, those things have really stuck with me. I don't want to keep going on and on because this is already getting very long. I have plenty of other videos, unfortunately, I already have a whole nother abuse and autism video, like abuse and autism part 2. I already have it. Like, it's already another 30-minute video from the first one, and I don't even talk about this is all new abuse. This is now like partners, employers. I got fired from my last job. I'm talking to attorneys and stuff right now because the one accommodation for my autism they failed to meet. I had an emotional response at work, and I got fired because of that, because they said it was unprofessional. I got put on hold. Then we had a work meeting. I was trying to advocate for myself. All these people were just going against, all these people, 2 of them were sisters, so we'll just say that. So there's obviously going to be a bias there. And yeah, I ultimately ended up getting fired in that work meeting because I said, hey, like, I don't feel like my accommodations have been met at all. And it was all of them making excuses, basically. And I didn't take it. I wasn't disrespectful, but I was adamant. I was like, I really disagree, or I didn't know that I was being punished. All those times that I had to call out, or not call out, but just, text the family, hey, I'm going to be 30 minutes late. I'm having food issues, because I have ARFID. Sometimes it would be right before my 4-hour shift and I couldn't get my meal down. I was gagging on it. So in order to be functional at work and not be starving the whole time, I had to just take a little bit more time and get that food into my body. And parents were fine with it. I was told at the start that was no big deal. And then, because I work in clients' homes. And so, but then I found out in this work meeting that I was getting, penalized every single time it counted as an absence or something like that. So I was just trying to advocate for myself, like, hey, I'm not being irresponsible by just ditching work. And I was told that if I just coordinated with the family, it would be fine, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just saying that is a little example of just like, I'm trying to advocate for very fair things. And I'm getting so much backlash from it. And I'm just asking why. Like, why can't people just validate each other? Why does it have to be a competition? Like, oh, you didn't suffer that bad. It's pathetic. So yeah, I think I'm going to just wrap up the video there. But if you were abused, start to sit with that and start to give yourself what you never got, because you're not going to get it from them. That's basically it. And I say that with love. Sorry, I don't want to end it so coldly like that. But I'm saying that as like your autistic big sister. That tough love, because I care about you, whoever's watching this. You're not going to get it from them. And if that means that you need to cry right in this moment and just validate yourself, and probably cry many, many times after this, every time you start to feel that. But until all those tears are out, you're not going to start to heal. We have to give that to ourselves. So I hope this helped. There will be plenty of more videos, but I really don't want it to be like, this is all the atrocious stuff that's happened to me. Feel bad for me, because I don't need sympathy. I needed sympathy a decade or 2 ago. I don't need it now. Now I'm trying to help other people and give them sympathy. So please just don't misinterpret, all these videos of me sharing my experiences. This is not for sympathy. I don't need it. But you might need some sympathy, and I'll give that to you. I don't know why we all have to be so hateful. But yeah, subscribe if you want to come along on this journey. You know, I never want to be, I cringe every, no offense, but every time people like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to ring the notification bell. Blah, blah, blah. I hate that. And my PDA inside is like, nope. And if I was subscribed, I'm like, unsubscribe. I'm such a little poop sometimes. But yeah, so I'm not saying that. And like, subscribe to me. I don't care how many subscribers I have on here. As soon as I hit like 10, I was satisfied. And I was like, well, I can keep making videos because at least I know it's getting out to a group of people, and that is fine with me. And now I have 100, you know, and I think my views, it's like 16K in a month. This is wild. So I don't need your sympathy. I'm genuinely trying to help people. So subscribe if you would like to kind of come along on this journey. If you might be neurodivergent, you might be someone who was neglected in your childhood. Those are my 2 huge things. So stick around. My God, I almost forgot the grand finale. Oh, this shirt, by the way, free hugs. Yeah, I got comments from family members a few months ago saying, oh, that shirt is false advertisement. You've always hated hugs. These are the same people that are arguing with me that I'm autistic. Saying, you're not autistic. I'm like, okay, I've never let anyone in the family ever touch me. Like, what? What do you mean? But anyways, I forgot the grand finale of my abusive family. I was like, oh, if they're so abusive. This last year, I ruined my own birthday dinner on my 27th birthday. I figured this is the only time where I have any leverage where people might listen to me, but I'm desperate. So rather than having a good birthday dinner, you know, I would rather ruin my birthday, because I knew this was going to ruin it. Nothing's going to kill the mood more like you telling your family that you want to unalive yourself. And it did. It really killed the mood. But the thing is, you know, it was more of a, hey guys, I'm really struggling. Can I talk to you all for a second? There was probably at least 5 or 6 adults, maybe more. I asked the kids to go outside, and I had one of my cousins watch the kids outside. I asked if that could be, you know, orchestrated and facilitated, and it was. So I'm thankful for that. But I did. I talked to all the adults, and I was like, hey, like, I'm really struggling. You know, I just got out of my 2nd divorce. I really need help. I just feel like, you know, even if people could just give me a hug every once in a while. I know I haven't wanted them my whole life, but now that I'm an adult, you know, I have a healthier relationship with physical contact, and I would really like hugs now. And I would really like it if people would just reach out to me and ask how I'm doing, or if you guys could just invite me over for dinner sometimes. I feel like that might just make me feel a little bit more included, and I might not have these thoughts of unaliving myself, because they did come from just feeling the despair and the devastation of just feeling like I have to do it all myself. I always have, and I always will. And especially just getting out of my 2nd divorce, like, what people don't realize, for an autistic person, a marriage isn't just a partner and a nice, like, a lot of times a partner is our biggest support. And so when we lose that, you know, whether they were a healthy person or an unhealthy person, someone's better than no one. And someone to go to the store with, someone to take me to my appointments, someone, you know, to just help in that way, really, someone to remind me to drink water and eat. You know, they can be an abusive person and still do those things. And my ex-husband, at least this last one, was. My first one, I wouldn't say that he's an abusive person. Like, we've worked things out since, and I would say we're friends. But that second one, he is, and you know, he was and is an abusive person. And again, his mom was really narcissistic, and my heart goes out to him in that way. But it's not okay to treat me like that, and that's why I had to leave. And then he started to abuse my dog, and this one right here, this sweet, innocent, precious ping pong, he started to physically harm her. And she would urinate whenever he walked towards her. I think I already mentioned that. But that is what got me to leave. Because as an autistic person who didn't even know I was autistic, I knew that having a person in my life was the only way that I could function. I didn't necessarily want it for the romance or the companionship, or the things that neurotypical people usually, from my understanding, seek out relationships for. I didn't have that. Mine was like, oh cool, I can go to the store now. Oh cool, I can ask people now, hey, my boss told me this, what does that mean? You know, was it something I like? These social miscommunications, I had someone to run that by now. But yeah, so I had just gotten out of that divorce, so all my support just fell through, and now I was with an entire family. Now I had moved across the country, and now I'm not just with one person anymore. Now I'm with my whole family. I should get support, right? Wrong. That was the most ill supported I've ever felt in my life, and what hurt the most is days passed after that, and weeks passed after that, and my phone never rang. And I never got a hug in passing, and I never got checked on, and no one ever invited me over to their house. Not once. No one ever checked on me. Not once, you guys. And here we are over a year later, and on this last birthday, my 28th birthday, I got all these happy birthday texts from my family, and this year I decided to ignore them because I felt almost like laughing at them. Like, happy birthday? Bet. Yeah, you're really wishing me a happy birthday, giving me no support. No, they do things because they're obligated. They do things because people are supposed to send you a text saying happy birthday. They're supposed to do that. They don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to have a happy birthday. If they did, they would have done those things, guys. I can't even just say it anymore. I can't say, oh, it feels like they don't want that. No, they freaking don't. No one did anything for a year. And that hurt, you guys. My heart was shattered. And it's almost like every week that went by, every month, and every time they promised to do something and they wouldn't, it's like my heart shattered a little bit more. So now it's like I don't really feel much of anything because I just don't expect anything. But I was, a few months ago, I was really devastated about that. And so that's honestly the grand finale. That's like, okay, well, what does it look like now? They could have abused me when I'm younger, but people change, right, Twyla? People change. Do they? Because mine didn't. And the more I ask from them, the more it hurts. I was homeless. They didn't let me stay with them. They let me sleep in their garage. But it was 20 feet away from one of their 2 couches that they just have just on that first floor. That was probably 20 feet away from where I was sleeping in their garage. There was just a wall between it. But 20 feet away, there was 2 couches and everyone else was sleeping upstairs. But instead of letting me sleep in the house, they allowed me, their dead daughter's daughter, to sleep in the garage because other people disrespect me and my balls finally dropped. So now I don't take it. It's like I explained it to my grandpa and he gets it. I explained it to a man. I'm not trying to sound misogynistic, but they do have that same logical part of the brain like I do. Not that women don't, but I feel like with men, we just click. We always have. My men who were teachers, men who were coaches, whatever, I've always just, we have but so anyways, I explained it to my grandpa like that. I said, how when a boy grows up and he's going through puberty and everything, and his dad puts his hands on that boy for the last time, and then in that moment it is established that that boy has finally surpassed the dad when it comes to physical strength, or in this case maybe it's emotional strength or whatever it is. And if you kind of do have to let people know that is the last time that you will do that, and they don't like it. Like I said, the reason why I got kicked out this last time, which who knows if it was the reason, right? I'm literally just trying to be as objective as possible. I told my aunt, hey, your substance abuse is really disappointing. When she tried to tell me that she was there for me, which I have a right to do, guys. You have a right to do this as well. And I say, I appreciate that, but I don't feel like you're really there for me because of your substance abuse. You're on another planet by 6 p.m. And you also have a tiny little kid who is your responsibility. And I don't want to say anything. I'm so I don't even want to deal with it. I'm not scared anymore. I just don't want to deal with it. You know, I have nothing to gain from like busting this person. Like, look at everybody, look what she's doing. I have nothing to gain. What I'm trying to say is like, that is objectively why I got thrown out. I approached her about this because she approached me, first of all. She approached me and was like, hey, cheer up, you have me. And I'm like, I almost laughed. I was like, what? Since when do I have you? Since when does your child have you either? The one that's an actual child right now, you know? So, and then it was not even a week later. It was like a couple days later, without telling me anything, just all my stuff was outside in boxes. We're talking, they just, you know, put everything in a drawer in a box. Everything over here in a box. Nothing was organized. I couldn't find anything, which is honestly a nightmare for an autistic person, but whatever. That's the least of my concerns in this situation. But yeah, it's like, why does that always get flip-flopped? Why is it our fault for things like that happening? So that was the grand finale this last year. I also spent my 28th, so the 27th birthday was the one where I told them all, hey, I'm at my wit's end. I'm going to do something very drastic. And unfortunately, I feel like I don't have a choice because I cannot keep up with my physical vessel. I can't keep up with the world around me. And I haven't gotten any help. And instead of anyone doing anything, it was 5 or 6 adults. But that goes back to what I was saying, that hive mind. If they all think that Twyla's crazy and any help would be enabling her to just not be a real adult. Like I was sober at that point. I wasn't on drugs. Like it was, I don't know why they didn't help me if it wasn't out of selfishness, but please enlighten me, you know, if you have any theories. But I just can't believe that I made that whole video without the grand finale, so just had to squeeze that in there as well. Take care. No, but on a lighter note, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to genuinely just bring you the most information that I possibly can, because my life got exponentially easier, better, more fulfilling, and now I'm euphoric throughout the day, some days, just naturally, just because I finally feel complete, and I finally feel like I can trust myself, and I never felt that before. So I'll show you how to do that as well. Stick around. This is Twyla, that's Ping Pong, and this is Twyla's bed. See ya.